What's going on, everyone? It's your boy Sideswipe the Boss, and welcome to the Batcave. Inserting myself in here into a version of the Batcave. Let me know if you guys like this setup. I got my little green screen going on in the back, so it's gonna be interesting to see what I can make with this green screen and make new videos out of it. So let me know if you guys like it. But today, you already know, today is Batman Day. Got my little Batman shirt on. And celebrating Batman Day 2020, I'm going to be doing my own ranking of the Batmen that have been portrayed in TV, television shows, and the movies. It's going to be my own ranking. I'm going to be breaking them down into 5 categories. Okay, so first up, we have theatrics, which is basically going to be if they can separate the Bruce Wayne persona and the Batman persona well. Number 2 is going to be fighting ability, of course, because, Batman is all about them hands, you know what I'm saying. 3 is going to be intelligence or detective skills. How smart are they on their own, and also sometimes working with a team. Number 4 is going to be the gadgets. Batman's all about them gadgets, so how well does he use his gadgets, and if they're not just, made for plot convenience and stuff like that. And number 5 is going to be, just Batman. How well does the actor portray Batman? So without further ado, let's get into the Batman ranking video. Also, a quick side note, I'll be ranking each category. It'll be out of 10 points, and the overall Batman will have whatever score out of 50 points, just in case I didn't make that clear. To start off, we have number 8 on our list, and of course, you all know who's going to be at the bottom of my list. Mr. George Clooney's Batman in Batman and Robin in 1990-something, I believe. I don't remember what year it was, but it doesn't matter regardless, because George Clooney was a terrible Batman. Terrible. For theatrics, I decided to give him a 4 out of 10, just because he wasn't really a compelling Bruce Wayne, to be honest. He was honestly just playing himself. George Clooney is a charming person and a charming actor. So, I don't think he really knew how to be a Batman or Bruce Wayne, so he just decided to play himself and hope that came across, but it didn't come across very well, in my opinion. For fighting style, I decided to give him a 3 out of 10 because he's not really fun to watch fight. I don't know what to say. He's just not very fun Batman to watch fight at all. So a 3 out of 10 for fighting. For intelligence or detective skills, I decided to give him a 2 out of 10 because really, he didn't really do any detective work like that. It was mainly Alfred, to be honest, and a little bit of Robin in there and a little bit of Batgirl too. But, Batman himself, he didn't really do a lot of detective work, and he wasn't really very smart either. He was really dumb. I didn't really understand it. So a 2 out of 10 for intelligence. Gadgets, I'm giving him a 3 out of 10 because really his gadgets were made for plot convenience. The ice skates. Come on now. And the Bat credit card.
7 million.
Come on now. That's just too convenient. The Bat credit card was very stupid, and his gadgets were pretty much made for plot convenience. So a 3 out of 10 for gadgets. And finally, how good is he? Is just playing Batman. Just a 2 out of 10 because first, he didn't look very comfortable in the role. He didn't look like he knew what he was doing. He honestly just played himself in a bat suit. Really, the only thing that made him Batman was that people called him Batman, and the suit looked like a Batman suit, even though I don't excuse the bat nipples or the butt or zoom in on the crotch. So overall, George Clooney Batman, in my opinion, is the worst Batman that we've gotten, and that's why he's number 8 on my list with a total score of 14 out of 50. Not very good score at all. Now we've come to number 7 on my list, and I might get a little backlash for this, but this is just my opinion. It's just my opinion. But number 7 on my list is Adam West Batman. Now, personally, I didn't grow up on Adam West Batman, so I don't really have any personal connection to this Batman like probably most of you guys do. But this is just my opinion, and I really do appreciate Adam West for what he did with the character. I mean, the show was made for like teenagers and stuff, so it was kind of silly and stuff. It wasn't really an adaptation of a true like Batman comic, but you got to give credit to Adam West for making the character, at least giving it like a stepping stone to become as popular as it did later on. So for theatrics, I gave Adam West a 6 out of 10, just because from what I've seen, he's a pretty decent Bruce Wayne. I mean, he does kind of separate Bruce Wayne and Batman a little bit, but not that much to where it's super noticeable. But I still gave him a 6 out of 10 because he is a charming Bruce Wayne when he is Bruce Wayne. For fighting, I gave him a 4 out of 10. Now look, I love a good bang and a pow and a whammo any day, but in all honesty, it was just played for like laughs and stuff. It wasn't meant to be anything serious, and it's just my opinion, so he gets a 4 out of 10 for fighting ability. Intelligence, I'm giving him a 6 out of 10 because he was a decent detective, but sometimes it was just plot convenience that made him solve every single thing. Like, really? He could solve every single thing, like, anytime. It's just plot convenience to me, but I will give him points just for being sort of a good detective. So he gets a 6 out of 10 for intelligence. And we made it to the gadgets. I gave him a 5 out of 10 for the gadgets, just because, just like with the intelligence, a lot of the gadgets are for plot convenience. One specific thing I can remember is the shark repellent. Come on now. Bat shark repellent, that's got to be one of the most convenient gadgets I've ever heard of. But yeah, it was mainly played for laughs, I understand that, but most of his gadgets were just, plot convenience, and most of them didn't really make any sense in like a long storyline. So I gave him a 5 out of 10 for the gadgets. And for just the ability to play Batman, I gave him a 6 out of 10. Just because, I really appreciate what he did with the character, making him popular, or making that first stepping stone to make him popular. But, he's not really the typical dark Batman or an awesome Batman we see today. But like I said, I do give him credit where credit's due. So a 6 out of 10 for, his ability to play actual Batman character. So overall, Adam West has received a 27 out of 50. A big bump from George Clooney's Batman. Next up on my list, number 6, I believe, is Val Kilmer's Batman from Batman Forever. Batman Forever is actually a kind of slightly, to me, underrated movie. I actually enjoyed it the first couple times I saw it. It was when I was younger, though, so I guess I'm going to enjoy anything when I was younger. But, I mean, it's not totally unwatchable like some people say it is. Batman and Robin, that's an unwatchable movie. But Batman Forever, it was actually a pretty watchable movie, especially with Jim Carrey, acting all Jim Carrey-esque. But we're not talking about Jim Carrey, we're talking about Val Kilmer's interpretation of Batman. For theatrics, I gave him a 4 out of 10 just because he didn't really separate the Bruce Wayne and Batman persona very well. I mean, for crying out loud, he shouted he was Batman in a crowd full of people who, I know they were yelling, but clearly his girlfriend next to him could clearly hear him say, "I am Batman!" Like, no. It wasn't really, I didn't really think he separated Bruce Wayne and Batman that well. So that's why I'm giving him a 4 out of 10 for theatrics. For fighting ability, I'm giving him a 6 out of 10 just because he did kind of have the hands, to be honest. I mean, especially against like Harvey, Two-Face's goons, he had the hands. I mean, he's not an expert fighter or anything, but he held his own, and I give him points for that. So a 6 out of 10 for the fighting ability. Next up, we have intelligence. I gave him an 8 out of 10 for intelligence because he is one of the most smartest Batman we've seen. He figured out Riddler's riddles pretty easily, even though he did have some help from Alfred. Still, nonetheless, he helped figure them out himself. He figured out that Edward Nygma's stuff was dangerous, and that's why he didn't greenlight his little project. And he also figured out how to trick Riddler with that last riddle at the end and stuff. That was pretty cool. I mean, throwing the coins up to confuse Two-Face at the end, I guess that was kind of smart, even though, I mean, it was a little cheap, and he did kill Two-Face at the end of that, if he is dead. But anyway, I do believe that Val Kilmer is one of the smarter Batman of the group. So he's getting an 8 out of 10 for intelligence. Gadgets, I'm giving him a 6 out of 10. Just because he was pretty cool, you know. He had some pretty cool gadgets. He loved that grappling hook, I'll tell you that for sure. He had him on his car. He had him on him every time. So yeah, he was pretty cool with the gadgets. They weren't too fun and interesting though, because he didn't use them all too much, but it was still cool regardless. And I did like that little batarang toss at the end. So he gets a 6 out of 10 for gadgets. And finally, we have his ability to play Batman. I give Kilmer a 5 out of 10. Just because, I mean, he didn't look too interested in the role, to be honest. Not like George Clooney, though, where he was clueless. Val Kilmer, I feel like he did the best that he wanted to do. I don't think he did the best he could have done. But, I mean, it was fine. It wasn't too bad or anything, in my opinion. Val Kilmer does deserve a little bit more credit. But, you know, he was just fine as Batman, to be honest. So that's why I'm giving him a 5 out of 10 for that. So in total, Val Kilmer's Batman has received a 29 out of 50 for the total score. Just above Adam West's Batman, but still not in the top half of this Batman ranking. So we've made it to number 5 on my list, and you guys might laugh at this one, but it's actually Will Arnett's Lego Batman. Now hear me out. Hear me out before you click off the video. I'm only including Will Arnett's Batman because I feel like Will Arnett did a good job of what he was told to do. You know, Lego Batman is basically a parody of all the other Batmans combined and stuff. He's basically a mashup of all the Batmans we've had so far. So that's why I'm including him in this list. And he actually does pretty well to be in the top 5. For theatrics, I decided to give him a 6 out of 10 just because he doesn't really separate between Bruce Wayne and Batman. I know that's the point since it is a kid's show or kid's movie and it's only played for laughs and stuff, but he doesn't really separate Bruce Wayne and Batman at all. He basically plays Batman throughout the whole time. So that's why I gave him a 6 out of 10 for theatrics. Fighting ability, I gave him a 6 out of 10. I know that it's a kid show, it's made for laughs and stuff, but, you know, he just pulls out convenient batarangs and stuff, and, you know, he's a funny fighter, if I could say that. So that's why I gave him a 6 out of 10 for fighting ability. I gave him a 6 out of 10 for intelligence because he does solve a few things in, you know, the Lego movie and, his own solo film. But the main characters around him, they do a lot of the solving, too. Robin does some things, Batgirl does some things, even Alfred does some things too. Just like in Batman and Robin. But anyway. Yeah, so that's why I decided to give him a 6 out of 10 for intelligence. For gadgets, I gave him an 8 out of 10. He's hilarious with the gadgets. Like I said, his favorite thing to use is the batarangs and stuff. He has a million of them in his pocket for some reason, especially in that Lego movie scene where he kept throwing the batarangs and stuff. That was funny to me. And he used that grappling hook. He hides apparently these big things behind him and stuff like that bomb. I mean, it wasn't his, but still. I know it's a cartoon and it's played for laughs, but I know I just enjoy it a lot. So an 8 out of 10 for the gadgets. Finally, we have his ability to play Batman. I know Will Arnett's only voicing Batman, but I decided to give him an 8 out of 10 for that. Just because he does a great job, like I said in the beginning, Lego Batman is basically like a parody of all the Batmans that have come before it, basically combining this stuff, and Will Arnett really does a great job in embodying Batman, making fun of himself all the time. So that's why I decided to give him an 8 out of 10 for his ability to play Batman. So in total, Will Arnett got a 34 out of 50 for the score, and that's a pretty solid score for a pretty solid Batman, even though it is a cartoon. So we finally made it to the top half of the list, and starting off with number 4, we have Michael Keaton's Batman. Now, this Batman, I believe, is the Batman that made, Batman popular among mainstream media and stuff like that. Michael Keaton is always referenced as one of the best Batmans out there, just because his portrayal of the character made Batman as popular as he is today. And I do agree with that statement. So, let's get into the score. For theatrics, I gave him a 6 out of 10 because he is a pretty decent Batman. I mean, Michael Keaton was charming. He still is, but he was charming, very charming back in his day. But, he doesn't really separate too much between Batman and Bruce Wayne. He does a little bit, but not that much. I mean, he does a little voice shift, but like I said, it's not that much. But that's why I gave him a 6 out of 10 for theatrics. Fighting ability, I gave him a 6 out of 10 because he also kind of has the hands, but the suit looked like very tight on him, and it looked like it restricted Michael Keaton's movement, so he couldn't really do that much fighting in it. I mean, he did get a couple good punches in, a couple blocks and stuff like that, but nothing very, nothing too like, Ninja E or anything like that. So that's why I decided to give him a 6 out of 10 for fighting ability. For intelligence, I decided to give him an 8 out of 10 just because he's a pretty good detective. He's also on the smarter side of the Batmans, He's pretty good, figuring out Joker's plan and stuff like that. And also some stuff in his second movie, facing off the Penguin. So he's a pretty good detective. So that's why I decided to give him a 8 out of 10 for detective skills / intelligence. For gadgets, I decided to give him a 7 out of 10 because he is pretty cool with the gadgets. He doesn't use them too often like Adam West's Batman did or Will Arnett's Batman did. But he is still pretty cool with the gadgets. He's got the good old grappling hook and good old batarangs and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. So I decided to give him a 7 out of 10 for his gadgets. And finally, his ability to play Batman, I decided to give him a 9 out of 10 because he did great with the role. This is like the first time Batman became, like dark and stuff and more like his comic book counterpart. And I like how Michael Keaton did it. That voice shift, even though it was small, it was still good. He kind of created that sense of fear that the Adam West Batman was lacking. So he was a pretty good Batman. And I really did like what he did with the character to, make it as popular as it is today. So that's why I decided to give him a 9 out of 10 for his ability to play Batman. So Michael Keaton's total score is a 36 out of 50, just above Will Arnett's Batman in the 4th place. So moving on to the top 3. In 3rd place, we have the most recent iteration of Batman, and that is Ben Affleck's Batman. And I know Ben Affleck, he's a little underrated, to be honest. He's not really a bad Batman, to be honest. I just don't think he's that great either. But, you'll see in my scores of why I think that is. So for theatrics, I gave Ben Affleck a 7 out of 10, just because, he is a pretty good Bruce Wayne. Ben Affleck can play smug and a little douchebaggy at times, but it really isn't a, switch between him and Batman, to be honest, because Bruce Wayne, he looks angry all the time, and Batman is also angry all the time, so that's not really too much of a switch between Batman and Bruce Wayne, but he still does play a pretty decent Bruce Wayne, especially when he's confronted by people. He's got to play that, smug and kind of douchebaggy character. So that's why I gave him a 7 out of 10 for theatrics. For fighting ability, Mamma Mia. I give him a 10 out of 10 for fighting ability because holy moly, this Batman got the hands for days. If you don't believe me, just go look at that Batman versus Superman scene in the warehouse where he's fighting all those goons. It was so good. Zack Snyder, he always knows how to pull the best fight scenes off. And that fight scene was one of the best fight scenes I've ever seen Batman partake in. So 10 out of 10 for Batman's fighting ability. For intelligence, I decided to give him a 6 out of 10 because he is kind of smart, to be honest. He does figure out a few things by himself, but he's not really the smartest in the room when other people do show up. Like when Wonder Woman shows up, he's kind of not smart. Alfred kind of outsmarts him sometimes. Cyborg outsmarts him sometimes. And Batman's supposed to be like the smartest person in the room. I don't know if that was like a conscious choice or a directorial choice or something like that. But, I mean, he wasn't very, very smart. But he was still a decent detective. So that's why I gave him a 6 out of 10 for intelligence. For gadgets, I decided to give him a 7 out of 10. Just because he was pretty cool with the gadgets, he had all those kryptonite-based weapons to try and fight Superman, He got the good old grappling hook. He loves that grappling hook. And, he's got the batarangs and stuff. My only thing that took points off for me was him using guns. Batman's not supposed to use guns. He's not supposed to kill people. Especially in that nightmare scene, he was just murking fools left and right. Like, what? That's not what Batman's about. So his usage of guns is what took off points for him. So that's why I gave him a 7 out of 10 for gadgets. And finally, his ability to play Batman, I just gave him a 7 out of 10 because, like I said, he is a pretty decent Batman. Like in the higher decent section, not the lower decent section. But, him killing, him using guns and stuff, that's just not what Batman's about. So that's why I gave him a 7 out of 10. So in total, Ben Affleck gets a score of 37 out of 50. A pretty good score, but still not the top Batman in my opinion. Alright, we are finally in the top 2. And to start off the top 2, we have number 2 on our list, my list, and that is Christian Bale's Batman from Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy. To start off for theatrics, I decided to give him an 8 out of 10, just because Christian Bale really does do a good job of separating, the Batman persona and the Bruce Wayne persona. He can play smug, kind of, also like douchebaggy, also, the spoiled billionaire, especially, Batman Begins. That was probably his best portrayal as, separating like Bruce Wayne and Batman. So that's why I decided to give him an 8 out of 10 for theatrics. For fighting ability, I decided to give him a 7 out of 10 just because he is pretty good with the hands, but he does get beat up a lot. Like, he got beat up by Joker with a crowbar in that final scene. In one of the final scenes in Dark Knight, he got beat up by Bane a lot. Ra's al Ghul was getting to him. I mean, he has the hands, but he's not really the fightiest Batman, if that's what I can say. So that's why I gave him a 7 out of 10 for fighting ability. For intelligence, I decided to give him a 9 out of 10 because he is really, really smart. Also on the smarter side of the Batmans because he does figure out a lot by himself, but he's also able to work with a team as well to figure out like stuff like when he was trying to figure out like who the Joker was, what were his motives in Dark Knight. So I really like that about him. He's pretty on point detective work for Christian Bale's portrayal of Batman. So that's why I decided to give him a 9 out of 10 for intelligence. Now for gadgets, man, oh man, oh man, this Batman loves his gadgets when it comes to the shorting out electric guns to all his batarangs to especially all them grappling hooks he got. Ooh, all the gadgets. This Batman loves his gadgets. And most of the credit does go to Lucius Fox. Well, actually, all the credit goes to Lucius Fox because he is the one who made all the gadgets for this Batman for to use and stuff. But this Batman is all about the gadgets, way, way more about his fighting ability. So that's why I decided to give him a 10 out of 10 for gadgets. And for Christian Bale's ability to play actually Batman, the character of Batman, I decided to give him a 8 out of 10. Just because he is pretty good in the role, he does the little, I'm Batman, and stuff like that. And it's pretty cool. And he is kind of, heroic and stuff, and he does look like he genuinely enjoys playing Batman. You got to get an actor in there who really enjoys what he does. George Clooney. Anyway, so that's why I decided to give Christian Bale an 8 out of 10 for his ability to play Batman. So overall, Christian Bale receives a 42 out of 50, being the best live action adaptation of Batman, in my opinion at least. And finally, we've made it to number 1 on my list. And come on now. Y'all know who it is. Mr. Kevin Conroy himself as Batman. He's the voice of Batman from the animated series, the old animated series, the animated Batman movies. He voices Batman in the Arkham games as well. And he did have like a little cameo in Crisis on Infinite Earths. Even though he technically didn't play, he wasn't in the suit as Batman or whatever, he still, played Bruce Wayne and provided the voice and stuff. So it was pretty awesome to see. And you guys probably know why he's number 1 on my list. But, let's go into the details. So first up we have theatrics, and I gave him a 7 out of 10 for theatrics because Kevin Conroy really doesn't separate Bruce Wayne and Batman too much. I mean, he does a little voice shift in his voice, whenever he did, between Bruce Wayne and Batman in like the animated series and stuff like that. But, it's still good for what he does as well. So that's why I gave him a 7 out of 10 for theatrics. For fighting ability, I gave him a 9 out of 10 just because he is pretty fun to watch, Well, at least I give credit to the animators and stuff like that for this. But, this Batman, who's voiced by him, he's a pretty fun Batman to watch fight. Especially in, like, the Batman games where you're actually playing as him. You feel the impact of every punch you make in the little joystick or whatever console you got playing these Arkham games, and it's pretty fun to fight as Batman in those games. So that's why I decided to give him a 9 out of 10 for fighting ability. Intelligence, 10 out of 10. This Batman is, top tier. I know Kevin Conroy, he got a lot of lore and, a lot of, content we can go over where his intelligence is being proven. He's working with teams, he's going to crime scenes, he's figuring out stuff by himself, and it's also not convenient as well. It's actually, he's actually doing the work, solving the actual cases. So I really like this Batman's intelligence. So 10 out of 10 for detective skills / intelligence. Gadgets is also a 10 out of 10 just because he also is very much about the gadgets, Every Batman loves their grappling hooks and stuff like that, so you just can't ignore that. But his gadgets aren't also for plot convenience. At least most of the time, they're not for plot convenience. They're actual gadgets that it's not like he's having no shark repellent or stuff like that. But he actually uses actual gadgets that help him in the situations he has, and they're not really anything used for convenient wise, plot convenience to solve the plot quickly and stuff like that. And I really like that about this Batman, so that's why he gets a 10 out of 10 for gadgets. And Kevin Conroy's ability to voice Batman, 10 out of 10 again, because really when you think about it, Kevin Conroy, he really embodies this voice of Batman. You can hear whenever he's having a struggle, you can hear that struggle in his voice, or you can hear whenever he's joyful how rare it is, that joyfulness in his voice. You can hear the anger in his voice whenever he's angry. You could also like feel, the passion. You feel the struggle that Batman goes through. Even in like the Arkham games, you feel like in Arkham Knight, you can feel all this like struggle he's going through, trying to save the city and all that, and the stress it takes, upon him. Kevin Conroy, he does a great job. He's like one of the best voice actors I've ever encountered before, and it really shows in his portrayal of Batman. So that's why I decided to give him a 10 out of 10 for his ability to voice/play Batman. So in total, Kevin Conroy receives a 46 out of 50 in the total score, and hits the #1 spot for my personal favorite Batman interpretation. So before I go, I do want to give my opinion on how I think Robert Pattinson is going to be as Batman. And just judging from the trailer, I really like what I'm seeing. This Batman looks very dark, dark and gritty. His fighting ability is off the charts. I mean, look at this scene right here.
I'm vengeance.
Ooh, exactly. He looks like he's going to do well with the fighting. I mean, he looks like he's going to be doing a lot of detective work, also working with the GCPD, trying to figure out riddles and stuff like that. And even if there's a bigger conspiracy in Gotham than we think. So I'm really excited for Robert Pattinson's take on Batman, and I really think he at least might make it into the top half of my Batman's ranked when that movie comes out. So that is all the time we have for today. Thank you for tuning in. Let me know in the comment section down below what your ranking is for Batman. Would you change mine? Would you change a lot of it? Would you change any scores? Or is your ranking similar to mine? Let me know that in the comment section down below. Please do not fight in the comments. Everyone has their own opinion. And, just listen to people's opinions. And, you wouldn't want anyone hating on your opinion. So don't hate on anyone else's opinion. So just leave all that in the comment section down below. And if you did enjoy this video, just make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to see more videos like this. Until next time, have an awesome day, everybody, and happy Batman Day.